Welcome to the Powerless Leader Podcast. This podcast exists to equip everyday leaders, those of you without titles, authority, or formal power, to influence your world with clarity, courage, and character. So whether you're leading from the classroom, the cubicle, or the coffee shop, each episode offers mindset shifts, practical tools, and stories to help you lead yourselves and those around you, even when you feel like you're powerless. An episode drops every other Thursday, so I invite you to subscribe, to join us, to watch on YouTube, and do whatever it takes to be a part of our community. And we're going to start right now. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Powerless Leader Podcast. We're on episode 6. And today I want to talk about fear. It's something that every leader faces. It is. Every one of us, in specifically times in our lives, have faced fear. And as a leader, especially leaders without any sort of positional authority, we need to be able to face fear when it comes our way. We have that fear of failure that comes, the fear of being misunderstood, fear of being invisible, not heard, fear of just not being significant whatsoever in the things we do. But fear is not a sign that you're weak. Fear is a sign we're human. Every single one of us have built into and hardwired into our systems a fear response. And in some cases, fear can be really good. A car is racing down the highway at you. You get afraid and you move out of the way. A shark is swimming towards you. You get in that boat and you get out of the way. Unless it's a shark from 1977 off of, Amity Island, Mr. Jaws himself, then we worry about other things. But fear is part of who we are. It's a part of our system. It is built into us, and we cannot avoid fear. But here's the thing. We need to understand fear doesn't make us weak at all. Again, it's how we respond to fear that determines the kind of leader we are going to become in the end. Fear has two meanings. Forget everything and run. I'm getting out of here. Get out of here. Or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. And that's by Zig Ziglar. Again, that quote is, fear has two meanings. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. And that's by Zig Ziglar. In every fearful encounter we have to make a decision. Are we going to run, or are we going to rise? And that's really up to us. For me, once, I can remember, my wife and I are fans of Disney World. We go quite a bit. And a few years ago, around COVID season, the COVID era, they opened something called the Skyliner. And it is essentially the Skyliner are these gondolas that are hanging from cables that are at least 20 miles in the air. Trust me, they're really up there. Well, not really, but you get my drift. That's kind of how I feel about them. That these are these nice enclosed spaces hanging miles and miles in the sky. If you get stuck, if it stops, you got no hope. You're done. That was the attitude I had about those things. But some friends of my wife and I, we had met there at the parks, and we said, let's get on one and let's ride over to Epcot. Okay. I'm like, sure. I was already a little bit nervous about it anyway. I've been struggling with claustrophobia for most of my life, and not just the fear, the heights, the claustrophobia. That was just it was one of those. So we get to the station where you get on the gondola, and we step into the shadow of this station. And I froze. Froze. Dead in my tracks. I could not move another step forward. And they had all walked a few feet past me, and they realized I stopped. They turned around and looked at me, and they said I was white as a ghost. Fear had taken so much control of me that I could move no further into that place. And so what I do? Well, one of them stayed with me. The other two went off to Epcot, and I went over to our resort and just relaxed. That's about all I could have done. It was not a good scene for me. But in that moment, I realized, I needed to deal with my fear. So I started facing my fear rather than running away from it anymore. I started doing things that would impact and make me face those claustrophobic feelings. And a year later, I had the opportunity to get on that thing again. And guess what I did? I managed to make it past the first step into the station. I got on it and I enjoyed myself. My wife and I had a great time. And that fear of those types of things, I've been able to overcome because I've spent time working to face them. And in a way, that's also helped me in other places like meetings, the fear of speaking up. Everybody has fears. Everybody has things that keep us from acting or even wanting us to run away from. We need to be able to face those fears if we want to lead people. You cannot lead somebody through fear if you haven't faced fear yourself. And for me, I was so bound up in that fear that I couldn't move. And it took time and it took effort on my part to overcome that fear. Like I said before, fear is so hardwired into us. We need to learn to embrace it in the right circumstances. I have a question for you. Have you faced any sort of fear? Maybe you're sitting in a meeting and your boss calls on you because they need your input on something and your heart starts pounding. You feel like you're beginning to sweat. You clam up and you're like, you're done. You can't speak. You get so bound up in the anxiety and the fear that comes along with that response. Fear in leadership without any sort of authority can be subtle, yet a profoundly impactful thing that occurs. It manifests in ways that will hinder our decision making. It can stifle our communication, and it can limit our risk taking. And trust me, if you want to succeeding in life is all about risking things. Research from Harvard Business Review, I'm going to read this little quote here. Research from Harvard Business Review emphasizes when leaders without formal titles confront uncertainty or potential criticism, fear can significantly reduce the willingness to take initiative or voice critical insights. You have insights. You have knowledge that you need to be able to share with your team. And if fear is keeping you from opening up, if fear is keeping you from sharing things with your team, it's going to kill your presence. It's going to kill your influence. Your hesitancy, your fear can not only hinder your personal growth, but it can negatively impact team performance. It can actually drag your team down. And your organizational culture, it can impact as well. What we need to begin doing is understanding what our fears are, actively managing our fears. And that is essential to begin building influence wherever you are in any position. Another fear of mine is large crowds. Going into a networking meeting is like a nightmare to me. It really is. I'm an introvert. I'm usually that guy you see standing in the corner looking for a means of escape in the background. That's one of my fears, but I've had to begin working on that so that I can begin getting out and being networking and talking to people and understanding others. One thing I've learned about it, though, and one way that's helped me begin reshape the way I address those kind of fears, is understanding when I go and begin having conversations with people that I'm really not there for me. I need to be there for them. And if I have that focus on them, if I become others centered, my fear begins to fade. Because if my focus is on them, finding out who they are, what drives them, what their passions are, being curious about them, it shows them that I'm concerned about them, but it also helps me alleviate the fears that I have inside of me. And we need to understand, we need to begin, we need to learn to take that kind of step like I've begun. And it's hard. It's not easy, especially these social fears, these social anxiety fears that some of us have out there. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of it. So I encourage you, and get that little play on words there, to begin seeing it that way, that acting in spite of your fear, building that courage inside yourself. It's not necessarily bravery. Some people say, well, the opposite of fear is bravery. No, it's not. It's action. I guarantee you there are people in this world who've gone through hell and back. Like firefighters who run into a building. They're fearful when they go in, but you know what? They act in spite of that fear. They run towards the danger because they know they need to get something done, and they act in spite of their fear. Mark Twain said this: courage is the resistance to fear, the mastery of fear, but not the absence of fear. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said this. He said, to do the thing you fear and the death of fear is inevitable. Do the thing you fear and the death of fear is inevitable. We have to learn to address those fears and begin working through them. So let's talk some practical steps. Okay? Practical steps. Number one, I encourage you. Now, hopefully through this experience, you're learning about journaling and writing things down as you go. I encourage you, one, to name the things that you're afraid of. Name the fear that you're facing in your workplace, in your classroom, in your boardroom, wherever you might be. What is that fear that you're facing? Write it down. If it's more than one, write them all down. Take small next steps. Instead of speaking up in a room full of 20 people, speak up in a room of 3 people. Begin overcoming that fear. If you're doing public speaking, practice in front of small audiences instead of large ones. These are the times you can begin building your confidence and understanding that fear is not going to control you, and you need to not allow it. And the other thing I encourage you to do is invite others into your story, into that fear. Fear grows in isolation. And when you surround yourself with people who are supportive, that fear can begin to fade. Fear is a killer. Fear is an influence killer. If you're too afraid to take the steps you need to do to gain influence, you'll not get it. You'll not gain it. In fact, your influence will wane. And that's something you have to learn to overcome. Now, I have a great facing fear toolkit on my website. All you have to do is go to the powerlessleaderpodcast.com and go navigate to this podcast. Of course, this is episode 6, and sign up. And I will send you this information, self-assessments, a facing fear toolkit, all sorts of little tools you can get. All you have to do is check the little box that says, send me this information, and I'll send it over to you right away. Now, also, if you want to talk about it, I'm offering a free one-on-one coaching session, a 1-hour coaching session where you can come and we can talk it over. Just email me, go to that website again, the powerlessleaderpodcast.com, and email me, and we will get together and let's talk through some of this fear. All right. Now, remember this, folks. You're not powerless. Your influence begins not when fear is gone, but when you choose to lead in the face of it. You need to keep showing up. You need to choose courage over comfort. Now, until next time, in 2 weeks, when we talk about the emotional intelligence, the EQ that seems to be a big buzzword these days. Until that time, lead with passion, even when it's scary. We'll see you then. Thank you.